Bankruptcy. Okay, it's a word that carries a lot of weight, right? It's often surrounded by this cloud of fear and uncertainty, especially when you think about your credit. So many people believe it's the financial point of no return. So let's just tackle the big question head on. Is filing for bankruptcy really the end of your financial life? I mean, it's the fear that keeps people absolutely stuck under mountains of debt, avoiding what might be a totally necessary step. But here's the thing, the reality is often quite different. For a lot of people, it's not an ending at all, but a legally structured new beginning. It's a tool designed specifically to give you a fresh start. So let's break down what bankruptcy really means for you and your credit. So, when does this path even become a real option? Well, it's usually when you find yourself at what I like to call a debt crossroads, that moment where the amount you owe just feels completely and totally insurmountable. At its very core, bankruptcy is just a formal legal procedure. It's all governed by federal law, specifically the U.S. Bankruptcy Code, and it's designed to help people and businesses get out from under overwhelming debt. You can think of it as a court-supervised process to either wipe the slate clean or create a manageable plan to pay off what you can. Now, for individuals, this process usually goes down one of two main paths. You've got Chapter 7 or you've got Chapter 13. And the right choice? Well, it really depends on your income, what you own, and what your ultimate financial goals are. All right, let's dive in. Chapter 7 is often called liquidation, and it's the faster route. A trustee sells off your non-essential assets to pay your creditors, and then, poof, most of your remaining unsecured debts are just wiped away, usually in just a few months. Chapter 13, on the other hand, that's a reorganization. This is for people who have a regular income and really want to keep their assets, like their house or their car. With this one, you work out a 3 to 5 year repayment plan. Now, a really key difference here is how long they stick around on your credit report. It can be up to 10 years for a Chapter 7, but it's only 7 years for a Chapter 13. Okay, now let's get to the immediate aftermath, because once you file, the impact on your credit score can be, well, completely counterintuitive. So what do you think happens to your credit score the month after you file? I mean, most people assume it absolutely craters, right? That it hits rock bottom. But the data tells a very different story. Get this, believe it or not, on average, people see their credit scores jump by 69 points just 1 month after filing. Yes, you heard me right, an increase. How on earth is this possible? Well, it all comes down to the math behind your credit score. Look at this. Your total debt absolutely plummets in this study from over $125,000 down to just over $34,000. This causes your credit utilization, that's how much credit you're using compared to your limit, to drop like a rock, from a super high 53% down to a much healthier 15%. And since utilization is a huge factor in your score, this sudden improvement can give it a really significant boost. But, and this is a really crucial but, this boost is not for everyone. It primarily happens for people who already have low credit scores to begin with. Think below 620. If you have a good or even an excellent credit score and you file for bankruptcy, you will almost certainly see a pretty significant drop. Basically, the lower you start, the more potential upside you have from wiping that slate clean. Now, going through this whole process doesn't mean you just give up all your rights. Actually, it's the opposite. There are specific federal laws designed to protect you and make sure you're treated fairly. And the most important of these is the Fair Credit Reporting Act, or FCRA for short. This law is really the bedrock of consumer credit protection, and it gives you some pretty powerful tools to manage your credit file, especially after a bankruptcy. This law essentially gives you the power to monitor and correct your own credit history. Under the FCRA, you have the right to see exactly what's in your file. And if you find anything that's inaccurate, like, say, a debt that was discharged in bankruptcy is still showing as active, you have the right to dispute it. And the credit bureaus are legally required to investigate and either correct or just delete that information. And they absolutely must remove the bankruptcy record after that legal time limit is up. Look, the bankruptcy discharge is the fresh start, but it's really just the beginning. The real work, and honestly, the real opportunity, comes next. Rebuilding your credit and forging a whole new path to financial health. So, rebuilding is a marathon, not a sprint, and it starts with these 4 key steps. First, just like we talked about with the FCRA, you've got to review your credit reports constantly. Make sure everything is accurate. Second, open a secured credit card. This is where you put down a cash deposit that becomes your credit limit. It's a low-risk way for lenders to give you a shot, and it's one of the best tools for building a new, positive payment history. Which brings us to step 3, make every single payment on time. This is the single most important factor for your score. And finally, step 4, keep your balances low. Even with that new card, you want to maintain that low credit utilization ratio we talked about. But, rebuilding isn't just about numbers on a screen. I love this quote from a user on Reddit because it hits on a much deeper truth. Getting a fresh start financially is also about building new habits that actually bring you peace of mind. The score is really a byproduct of healthy financial living, not the other way around. And this is exactly why those new habits are so critical. I mean, look at what can happen over the long term. You see that awesome initial score bump to around 600 in the first few months. But then, notice what happens. At the 1 to 2 year mark, the average score actually drops to 571. And even 5 years out, it's a little bit lower at 566. So what does this tell us? It shows that bankruptcy is an incredibly powerful tool, but it is not a magic cure. That initial score boost you get from erasing old debt can totally fade away if it isn't followed by a real fundamental change in financial behavior. Without new habits, it's just too easy to fall back into high utilization and missed payments and repeat the very cycle that led you to bankruptcy in the first place. So, no, bankruptcy is not the end of your financial life. Far from it. You can think of it as closing one very difficult chapter and opening a brand new one. The real question is, what are you going to write in it?